Welcome back to the Tour du Pont. We're now halfway through stage 5, the road race, 127 miles, going down to Hagerstown. Well, the riders have to eat on the way, as our reporter Kevin Cusick was along the route finding out.
Lunchtime in America, right? Well, oftentimes we end up in restaurants like this here, or we go down to the local cafeteria at work. Well, in world-class cycling, lunch is not so easy. After watching the peloton, I thought I'd take to the road.
Oh man, these mountains are killers. You know, it's a little over 100 miles today. That feed zone ought to be coming up soon. That little club sandwich ought to be good. Lettuce, tomato, a little mayo. How am I gonna do this on a bike though? I'm not sure. Feed zone, yes! Ah yes, lunchtime. Whoa, whoa! Ah yes. A little bit of lunch. Oh, jeez. Ah, the power bar. That ought to be enough nutrition. Oh, how do I eat lunch now?
Well, it seems as the peloton heads down the road, they've had their lunch without any difficulty, but for me, I think the picnic approach might be a little bit better. I'm down to a little bit of water and a power bar and a great view of the race. Guys, cheers.
A little bit shaky there, Kevin, at times, but nonetheless, a few more years, you could get in this big peloton line, eh?
There's more than one reason why these men are called professional bicycle racers. They even know how to eat.
So that's the situation now. The Tour Light involves more than the usual mechanic-manager relationship. Here's Kevin Cusick to explain more to us.
Prior to the start of today's race in Richmond, Virginia, each rider will have pedaled 909 miles, spending more than 40 hours in the saddle, causing an overload of stress to their bodies. Well, to overcome such obstacles, Len Pettyjohn of the Coors Light team uses every resource available to give his riders both a mental and physical edge. Thus far in the Tour du Pont, the Coors Light team has worn the yellow jersey 6 of 9 stages, clearly outperforming the other 4 American teams.
A lot of it has to do with keeping yourself as tuned as possible. I mean, it's pretty hard for any athlete maybe to be 100% all the time, but the athlete that's closest to 100% is the one that's going to be performing the best. I mean, you want to get the most out of yourself, and the more assistance you have, the better.
Assistance is in no short supply for this team. In addition to 3 full-time massage therapists, they also employ a chiropractor, Dr. Mike Leahy, who is often at the race for consultation and body adjustments. His work with the team is more preventative than corrective medicine.
Well, I think one of the key things working with the doctors is that they become a lot more attuned to their own body. The doctor will adjust something, the therapist will work with them on something, and they find that they can do a little bit longer ride, or the intensity level can be a little higher. They find that they're recovering quicker. Those are all things that make an impact on the riders, and then they start paying more and more attention to their bodies. And the results tend to get better, and it's a system that tends to feed and support itself.
You'll find it. Start right over here and just let me take it.
If I wasn't getting fairly continual care and going out of my way to see chiropractors, massage therapists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then I would not be able to continue doing this. I mean, 16, 17 years, you know, I'm carrying the weight of a lot of miles on this bod, and so I got to keep it tuned.
A cycling stage race is similar to running back-to-back marathons, leaving only hours for the body to recover. But with the help of the Coors Light staff, every rider is helped to overcome his physical problems.
Bicycling requires a symmetrical effort of the lower body. But because of the position being bent forward and using the legs in the position that they're in, it's not like a running position. You tend to get imbalances left to right. And in particular, there's a muscle that pulls the pedal up. The primary muscle that does that is the psoas. And that's one of the more common things that we find a problem in, especially as they go longer and harder and longer and harder.
It's this kind of help that keeps the Coors team on top of a stage race like the Tour de Pont.
Long gone at this level in bike racing are the days when a rider drove himself to the races, did his own massage, maintained his own bike, and then drove himself back again.
So the Z-team called all of their men to the front now. This is a very typical professional tactic. They've now realized they've got to bring back to the pack the Soviet rider out in the lead, and the chase is on. But one man who was getting wet with the rest of the riders today was our man Kevin Cusick, who was down the road. Kevin.
This sign here signifies 10 kilometers to the very first sprint in this Tour de Pont. But today, due to the adverse weather conditions, they've canceled it for safety reasons, which today with these conditions seems to be a good idea. Phil?
But I think it was Kevin, but you know, it's a shame that they couldn't have that sprint down there because the weather has ruined that a little bit. But one man who would have certainly have won it, as it turned out, is Sapragin, who's now out in front.
But indeed, the Team Z of Greg LeMond has gone to the front, and the pace has picked up a little bit. And they have the young Russian rider Roman Sapragin in their sights. It's interesting to note this Russian team, the oldest member of the team, is the veteran of this race of 3 years, Dmitry Nelubin, and he is only 21 years old. He's the senior member of the Russian team. These youngsters are a very talented bunch, if a bit down on years and experience.
The Americans are being proclaimed as one of the strongest amateur teams in the world right now. Well, here's their chance. Let's go to Kevin Cusick.
For the U.S. national team, this race provides a great opportunity for them to compete against the best cyclists in the world. Anytime an amateur team goes against a professional team, it's always a great ego booster, which is just what this team could use as they ready themselves for the Olympics in Barcelona.
Two clear favorites to watch are Bobby Julich and Lance Armstrong. Both originally from Texas, now they share the same dream, to represent the United States at the Olympic Games this summer.
It's very important. I mean, I say this is my third sport that I wanted to go to the Olympics for. The first being swimming, which was a little unrealistic, I think. I was very young. I was just dreaming. The second was triathlon, which I thought it was realistic, but the sport never quite made it into the Olympic status, and now it's cycling, and it's just right here. It's a matter of months.
Tour de Pont comes every year, but the Olympics is a 4-year, one-in-a-lifetime thing, so it's probably second on the list.
Last year at this race, Bobby Julich finished 5th overall and was the second-best American finisher behind Alexei Grewal, easily winning the pink jersey, signifying the best young rider. Earlier this month, Armstrong captured an important victory in his preparation for the Olympics, winning the first Union Grand Prix of Atlanta. He beat Greg Orovitz, the Coors Light professional team. No wonder U.S. team coach Chris Carmichael is more than pleased with Armstrong's progress thus far.
Lance has been excellent to work with the last couple of years because he's a highly motivated individual. He does not like to lose. And he's going to go out and take charge of the race, command the race, and that's what he did in Atlanta. That's what he did in Europe for the last 8 weeks. He basically took command of almost all the races he was in, and that's what I expect him to do in Barcelona.
Even Greg LeMond thinks Armstrong could be a factor in this year's race.
We direct your attention.
I think he has a great chance in Olympic match. But remember that cycling is professional amateur. It's kind of like NBA versus college. And a lot of the top, I think he's as talented as probably most of the talented amateurs in the world.
Coach Carmichael deserves much of the credit for developing this young team, and his predictions for this race is evidence of what he expects from his riders.
I think we come in definitely as the underdogs because when you have the likes of Laurent Fignon and Gianni Bugno and Greg LeMond, you can't say that, oh yeah, we're going to come in and we're going to kick everybody's butt. But actually, I think our team is as well prepared for this event as any team here, and our riders are definitely very hungry. They're almost starving, and I think that we have an opportunity to win this race, the whole war.
With the Olympic trials only 1 month away in Altoona, Pennsylvania, there's no better way for this amateur team to prepare themselves than to compete here at the Tour de Pont. Phil?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Well, here's a look now at the entire United States amateur team, and they're good. Apart from Lance Armstrong and Bobby Cusick, who's Kevin's talked about, another hot tip on the US team is Darren Baker from Chambersburg. It's going to be a great lineup. When we come back, we'll be along the course. And that's 1,000 miles. Now, Daniel DeLauerton is our main GC hopeful. I would agree with that. He's riding so well. Those are the words of Jim Okovitz, the team director. Well, of course, the man of the day is Dave Mann, and our man, Kevin Cusick, is with him.
Dave Mann, you took the yellow jersey in the time trial in stage 2. We're now heading into stage 6, and the mountains could be a factor today.
Yeah, today's going to be a very hard stage. I mean, it's going to be a long way, so I think the riders are going to be pretty sedate for the first half of the race, and then maybe once we start getting towards the big hills towards the end, that's when you'll start seeing some real action. And I mean, I've been climbing really well. Each day I get stronger and stronger, so it may be another day where I can hold on to the jersey, but if not, I just hope one of my teammates will be there behind me to fill it when I leave it.
3 fairly tough climbs along the way to Swift Run Gap, and then an uphill finish to the Massanutten Resort.
And welcome back. We're underway now in today's stage of the Tour du Pont. Well, this year, with the advancement of technology, you know, there's no reason now for the riders to shout at one another, nor the team manager to shout at them. Here's our own Kevin Cusick now to tell us exactly why.
Technology has been playing a larger role in the sport of cycling the past few years. Disc wheels, aero bars, and Lycra skin suits are all designed to help the individual rider increase his speed. Well, cycling, as you know, is a team sport, and the team from Motorola has been using the latest technology to keep them at the front of the pack.
Phil Anderson serves as the playmaker on Team Motorola. Speaking into this tiny microphone on his handlebar, he activates a two-way radio communication system, allowing his team to react to whatever circumstance lies ahead.
Phil, you got a copy? Over. Okay, here's the procedure for the finish. We're going to be doing, coming into the finish circuit. The first time over the line, they're going to take the finish time.
Team director Jim Okovitz
then
is always receiving
laps,
various information from
and
the
on
back
the
of the peloton
lap
and quickly
finish,
passing it on to his riders. No wonder Phil Anderson believes this technology is here to stay.
It saves time because I don't have to go around and individually tell the riders. My director doesn't have to continually come up to the bunch and tell us you know, what's going on in the race, because he can see things easier than us. Yesterday he was telling us you know, what was happening up the road, and you know, we had didn't have any idea. Well, you know, we had some idea, but he could give us, you know, from the race radio, he'd hear it on the race radio and tell us directly.
Racing is a team, and we try to do a good teamwork all the time. Cycling is more team sport than people think, but these radios are helping us to coordinate quicker, and we can react much quicker to a situation. Instead of losing a group by 2-3 minutes, we can react directly if it's a dangerous group, and there's a lot of things that it can help with.
It's a bit safer. The team director doesn't have to always come up and tell us what's happening in the race. Like a lot of the team, the cars come up alongside of the riders, and at times it's very fast and dangerous, you know, and then you have this car coming up here with somebody trying to talk to you, and it gets a little sketchy, a little hairy. So this way, the safety thing has really increased a lot.
Well, it's hard to believe a bike race was ever run without those communications, isn't it, Brian? Here we are back with the field on today's stage now as they head towards the finish at Massanutten. Well, our man about the Tour du Pont this year has been Kevin Cusick. He's been with the top team to find out how they work.
The Tour du Pont has featured some of the best cycling teams in the world, including Greg LeMond's Team Z. Well, team success each day is measured on the victory stand by who's wearing the yellow leader's jersey. But that person makes up only a small portion of what is really a 7-man endeavor. Every morning on the Tour du Pont, crowds gather at the start line hoping to catch a glimpse of cycling's premier riders. The first stop for most spectators is the team car of Greg LeMond. But in cycling, as in all sports, the team superstar must have a strong supporting cast in order to succeed. Well, the stars of Team Z are Greg LeMond and Atli Vosval. Their role as the GC or general classification rider is to stay on top of the overall standings.
Overall, our team's been, you know, basically any break that's dangerous, we've got somebody there to cover it, and climbers that are there to cover it, which is very good because if you're covering it with climbers, you know that they have a good chance of dropping whoever's in the break come the hills.
Ah, yes, the mountains. Well, to survive the agonizing mountain stages, Team Z features Terry Claverola, Eric Boyer, and Jerome Simone. All three are solid all-around riders, but when it comes to climbing, they're capable of not only enduring the steep mountain ascent, but escorting the team stars to the front of the pack. Thus far in the Tour de Pont, Claverola has been the only rider to wear the blue jersey, signifying King of the Mountain.
Normally, if we were just going for the mountain classification, we'd have one or two riders that would try to lead them out to the bottom of the hill and then have one rider pace them up until about 1 kilometer from the mountain sprint. But he doesn't really care for that. He prefers to just stay in the front by himself and then take care of it himself. He's not having much of a difficult time winning the mountain classification. There's nobody really contesting him. And so he's pretty much at ease by himself. He's here, you know, he's going for that, but he's also doing a lot of work, going in breaks and helping Atla and myself on the climb. So he's also working as a good teammate.
Johan Lammerts and Francois Lemarchand serve as the domestiques. And much like in football, where the lineman protects the quarterback, a domestique chases down every break and makes sure the GC rider has everything he needs to succeed. Johan is the domestique extraordinaire on Team Z, always chasing down the breaks.
Well, he's first of all a friend that I've known for, I don't know, he was on my team in '87, then had my hunting accident and we got away, and then we came back together in '89. He's usually my roommate, and actually is also, you know, we talk a lot. If I'm not riding well, I tell him my problems, and he tells me a little bit about his problems. He probably doesn't complain quite as much as I do.
Well, the first thing what friends do is I think support each other. So he supports me too in a way, and I support him. But on the other side, I know cycling pretty well. I've experienced, and I've been riding in very big teams, and so I know what to do. And I think that's very important for him. And he never has to ask anything or something. And I know just what to do. When there's a side wind, I have to keep him out of the wind and stuff. And that's the most important thing.
Heading into today's stage, Lammerts was 81st overall, but that tells only half the story. Team Z has 2 riders in the top 4, meaning Lammerts is certainly getting the job done.
Johan Lammerts, capable of winning races himself, but more than happy to supplement his victorious opportunities for that of his team and his friend Greg LeMond.